I forgot to start the recorder when the meeting started.
Oh, no, do we have to start over again?
No, I've got I have a
Okay.
closed caption transcript going, so hopefully that'll be enough. Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Kim. That makes sense. And Kim, yeah, chime in if I'm missing anything, because you also went on the site visit with Scott Gillen and with
It seems
John
like forever ago, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it was forever ago, right?
It was.
These things take time. So
Yep.
yeah, so anyway, other things that might need review, new trail construction, anything that's not there now. If you're using borrow pits, like if you're digging into below the surface and using material from other parts from any part of the property, that would need review. Buried utilities, and it does say logging, even though I'm going to qualify that, and logging needs review only until July 1st of 2023, because that's when our agreement with related to the Land and Water Conservation Grant, that's when that sunsets. And so after that, logging is not subject to Act 250. So it would not require review because unless we were somehow using federal funding to do the logging, but that's not going to happen. I mean, we're not, there's no reason to do that. So
do you think that
yeah.
should be noted in there in the, to put that in needs review? Because if somebody looks at this 20 years or so down the road,
well,
or is this document just till this coming up 2023?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps I could ask him to clarify that. But it's, we don't know, maybe the Act 250 rules will change at some point. So maybe they're not even considering that. Maybe they're just, maybe there's some reason why they want to leave it in there, but we know, and anybody else would know who's going through Act 250, that logging is not under Act 250 jurisdiction. So it's not subject to their review.
So there is something written that silviculture is exempt from review. Is that?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
However, the Act 250 rules, who knows, they may change. I would hope that silvicultural activities wouldn't come under jurisdiction, but you never know. So anyway, so that's pretty much it. And does anyone have any questions about what I've just gone over?
I don't have any questions about that. That looks all good. I just had a few things that I had questions about.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Pretty minor, a few minor things. So in the very beginning on page 1, it starts out with 392 acres. And so I thought it was 293. That's all the things that I've seen. That's I don't know if that's worth even changing.
Well, I believe it's 390. It's either 392 or 393 acres in total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just everything I've seen is 393.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then the other thing is the whole thing about the Indian lookout.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the committee at that point, but I was sitting in on a lot of the meetings, and I remember there was quite a lot of discussion about how the use of the word Indian was disrespectful to the Native Americans.
Did he not change that? Because I saw in some
Nowhere.
of the I saw that he had changed it in some of the captions. Did he?
I
is
know
it still?
we had requested that it got changed
Yeah,
everywhere.
it did. Yeah.
But maybe I didn't get the right version, but the version I was looking at today had everywhere in the contents, the body of it said. I should have written down the page. Oh, page number 7.
Oh.
So if you look at page number 7.
The new one, wasn't the updated one just sent in the last few days? I wonder.
It was sent today because that's when I got it.
Okay.
Um,
Oh,
So-
so I might not have had the correct one. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
so, okay, and
Yeah,
then,
because like right here, it says the lookout, so I'm assuming
Oh,
that
yep,
anywhere
so
in
I-
the,
okay. I
yeah,
did not get the newest. I haven't seen the newest version. The other thing, which is right there on this page is, and this is just for consistency, is that it says the 1850s sheep/bull barn. And I think in most other documents, it just is referred to as the sheep barn. So
mhm.
I don't know if that's worth, there's just a couple of places where it's,
Yeah, I do think in the in the National Historic Register listing, it does say sheep bull barn.
bull barn, okay.
Yeah,
Because I know Jim said he never knew of sheep, but he knew that bulls were kept in there. So, okay.
yeah.
So I didn't realize that. And then
Mhm.
just the last thing I noticed on it was, then again, this is just for consistency. They keep using the Catamount Forest and Trails land.
Mhm.
And so is there a reason why it's not Catamount Community Forest? Because nowhere else is it referred to as Catamount Community or Catamount Forest and Trails.
I don't know. It's just, I've always referred to it as Catamount Community Forest, and I referred to it to John. I don't know why he chose that.
And
that
I don't think it would be
language.
hard to just to change that. I mean, it's in there a few times, but that way it would be consistent with all the other documents and things that the town has.
Yeah,
I don't know what other, it just, people looking at it, like I say, 20 years down the road, they're going to think, is that a different property?
yeah.
So those were the only things that I had seen, but, so do anybody else have any more discussion?
This is Reed. I thought it was an interesting paper. I read it this morning, probably the older version. But my only comment was about the new signage. I was surprised they needed a review. I can't imagine that the signage that's proposed has a very big footprint. And I'm just surprised that they wanted to review if you put a post in the ground. But
Yeah, Reed, I can speak to that because I was on site with them. Some of the posts that we were talking about were, maybe a 4x4 post or some
Right.
sort of wooden post that required the digging. They did say that if we used the, and I'm not going to use the right term, Terry, you might know because of the Bluebird stuff, the screw-in type anchors.
the auger, yeah.
Auger, if we use that, it wouldn't require review. So I don't know, Melinda, if that's worth asking them to note on there.
I think they did. I think they
Okay.
noted that helical anchors were okay, but
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
that would be a really easy way to just move beyond having further assessments done.
Okay. Now, otherwise, I thought it was a very interesting paper. It's my first exposure to it, and thought it really went into a lot of detail without committing that there's actual archaeological finds on the property, but just more of the potential of them because of the historic nature.
yeah. And I think he also included a map of the known archaeological sites, which is,
Yeah.
quite interesting. So all these little red dots are discovered archaeological sites from, I guess, digs that were done in conjunction with other Act 250 projects. So, yeah.
And can you remind me, Melinda, who did this report? What was that? Was it the UVM?
Yeah, it was John Kroc, who heads up the UVM Consulting Archaeology Program.
Great. And this was a project with students or?
Graduate students, yeah.
It's great. Yeah, it's really covers a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really interesting on site with them looking at it, and one of their particular notes was the whole Sandman's area and all those tributary drainages that flow north out of that, and really honing in on that zone as, you know, kind of that big interest, because that's at the top of those tributaries is where they're finding more evidence of people being there in ancient times, because that was the route that the animals were traveling up to get water. So we were finding evidence of cultures being there to follow the animal path. So that whole Sandman's area is just prime. It was fascinating to walk with them and see that. And even like standing on the side of the drainage, they're like, you know, this side of the drainage, it wouldn't be an issue. They wouldn't have been there because of how erosion works. But this side, this is where they absolutely would have been. And just things that you never would have considered without seeing it and hearing it from them. So it's great they did this.
Yeah, interesting.
Great, okay. So does anybody else have any more comments?
Do we have to vote on it, accepting it, or is it
Yeah, how does that?
something we asked to have done, and therefore it's you know, just part of our organization now?
Yeah, you don't have to vote on this. It's
Okay.
just, you know, it's mostly just for your information kind of thing. It's something that the town needed to do before getting an Act 250 permit for the work that's going to have to be done on the property.
And that would include like bridges and
Yep,
putting
Yep.
in if the kiosk went in, that would need.
yep,
Okay,
all that.
great. Okay, well, I guess if there's no further discussion, we can move on to the next topic. Okay, so the next thing that was on, let's see, oh, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. I guess I guess we can just start in on it. So I hope everyone, this is the Emerald Ash Borer, and hopefully everyone got to watch the video that Tony D'Amato did a few weeks ago. And it was, you know, a good presentation, a lot of information about emerald ash borer and ash trees in general. And Tony talked about, you know, 3 goals that he kind of broke it down into for the ash and why to preserve it. And that was a cultural preservation, functional preservation, and genetic preservation. And the cultural part, I guess, would be more around like the black ash, which Native American Indians use for basket making. And also for like a legacy tree for cultural, and the functional ones more for like flooding and kind of leaving leaf litter, creating little microclimates and things. And then the genetic would be, you know, leaving those legacy trees and preserving these just for genetic diversity and maintaining biodiversity in the Catamount Community Forest. And so there's not a big area of white ash, I guess, is what's there mostly. And the most largest concentration is over near the Night Loop, and I guess Geronimo, I think it is. There's a whole little grove there, and it was Jim and Lucy who had gone over there and tagged a whole bunch of those. They took some white flagging, and I went over in just recent weeks and put the poster up there about emerald ash borer. And in the forestry management plan, Ethan talks about, you know, possibly treating these ash trees to preserve them. And the emerald ash borer is at our back door. It's right in Richmond. So it's just a matter of time before it does get here. So I wanted to talk about this and propose, you know, possibly treating some of those trees. There's one there in particular that's huge. I think it was 13 feet in circumference, and it was a 50 DBH, which is quite large. And what they do is the way that these would be treated would be drilling holes and putting a chemical in there to kill the emerald ash borer larvae. So it's not cheap, but it is a way to preserve these trees, and it lasts for up to 3 years, which is good. And hopefully, who knows, they might find a good solution on how to, get rid of these other than this treatment. That seems to be, the chemical approach. You can do a biological approach, but there has to be emerald ash borer there. So they have to have something to feed on. So that's kind of what I think you want to avoid, is to actually having them already there in the forest. So you would treat them in the late spring. It would be in the tree itself. The ash borer, the larvae and the adults would eat the leaves, and then they would die. So that would definitely keep them healthy. So I know I asked Melinda how much was left in the funds, the operating funds for the Catamount Outdoor Family Center, and we've used a lot for the invasives this past year. So I think there's around $500 left for treatment. I was going to have a guy, Chris Dulmer, come out, who is reputable and pretty reasonable in pricing, and just have him look at that grove and try to figure out which ones would be the valuable ones to save. You're not going to save them all. I think Tony was quite clear there in the presentation that you try to pick the ones that maybe the females that will spread the seed and things like that. So I just wanted to kind of see what folks felt about going ahead with that, following the forestry management plan to treat some of these trees and hopefully retain ash in the forest. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
Hey, Terry, are you familiar with the Vermont Urban and Community Forestry organization? They have, I'm looking at right now, they have grants for treating ash trees. And I'm wondering if that, that might be an option. I haven't looked into any more detail, but just while you were talking about it, I'm like, there's got to be funding for something like this. And so, yeah, I mean, this is Vermont Urban and Community Forestry. It's vtcommunityforestry.org, and they have a link for ash tree management grants. It looks like funding through the U.S. Forest Service. But anyhow, there looks like there's links to information. So it might be something worth looking into.
Okay, I talked with Ethan and he wasn't aware of any funding. I thought, well, maybe, Fish and Wildlife, where we had gotten funding for the invasives, the buckthorn would be. Yeah,
this just says the funding's intended for all Vermont municipalities that are prepared to remove public ash trees threatened by EAB, plant new or offset the loss of ash trees. So on high use municipally owned land. So it might have some good leads.
Okay, so that was Vermont Urban Forestry?
Yeah, the website is vermontcommunityforestry.org.
Okay, Melinda, has Bruce Hoare tapped into any of that? I know
he's used urban community forestry grants to remove and replace ash trees. I'm actually going to be basically reviewing, updating the Conservation Commission next week about the EAB plan implementation and how it's going. But yeah, Bruce has gotten a lot of grants through urban community forestry, and but even those grants are really kind of a drop in the bucket when it comes to what percentage of the costs that they do fund. One thing you should consider when thinking about treating ash trees is that, it's not a one-time thing. You gotta commit to it basically in perpetuity. Otherwise, like if you stop after 10 years, you risk losing those ash trees. So it's something to think about. I think urban and community forestry also has some cost calculation metrics on their site. And they showed, like they show these graphs where I think they use a 20-inch DBH tree as an example. And after 11, and while removing a tree does have high costs, I think it's after about year 10 or 11, the cost of treating ash trees exceeds the cost of removal. And so, I mean, I know that there is value in trying to retain trees that have cultural or ecological value, but just know that it is a long-term commitment, and you got to think about how much of the budget you want to allocate to every year to treating ash trees.
This is on a 3-year. They're talking now, they're saying that every 3 years, you
Right.
need to treat that
Yep.
particular tree. So
Mhm.
what we've done at our camp, we've taken a group of 10 each year, and we've committed to treating 30 trees, but we do 10 every year. So it kind of spreads it out a little bit. Yeah, so that's definitely, it depends, on, it's a small area of ash tree. It's not, Ethan said there are ash trees throughout the property, but this one particular area. And the other issue that I looked at was safety. If these big trees are right in the midst of all these trails that go right through, and that big one is especially right there on the edge of the trail. And looking ahead in the forestry plan, they're not planning on going there till like 2026. So that area is not slated to get any kind of a, forestry logging or anything like that for quite a while. And they are dangerous. That's the thing. Once they get the EAB, they're dangerous. And it's way more expensive to take them down after they've been infested. So, and Ethan also was looking into, he applied for grant money from the habitat stamp, which he said, he might get it, he might not. It's just, he kind of threw that out there and applied for the Catamount Community Forest as well as other forests. So.
Terry, as far as costs, I guess for me, the question, it come back to what Melinda's like saying, the cost. So in this very large tree, you're talking treating every 3 years, is it like hundreds or thousands of dollars to treat?
Oh,
it?
no, hundreds. Yeah,
Okay.
it's every 8 inches or so, they drill a hole in there and do the treatment. And then the other thing too, Ethan was talking about, now, he was not sure whether, he can do this or not, but there might be a point where you won't have to hire a tree surgeon person. You can actually, Ethan could do it himself, and
Mhm.
Laura's actually approved, certified to what's that, Melinda, what's that certification she has for doing the
Pesticide applicator.
pesticide applicator.
Mhm.
So, it could be, Ethan could do it, Laura could do it, so that might be an option down the road, which would be way more economical. It wouldn't be as expensive
Yeah.
as hiring someone, so.
Okay.
But, yeah, there is a cost. So it just, how much do you value having the biodiversity with the ash in this forest? Because once it's there, you're going to lose probably going to lose most of the ash trees one by one. So,
Yeah.
and then we do have it in the budget it's under forestry. Is that correct, Melinda? Where we did the invasives and the EAB treatment.
Mhm.
Yeah, tagged for that. So yeah, I was gonna, see how folks felt about it, and have Chris Dolmer come out and look at the trees and give us a quote, a price, and see, over a period of time, which ones would be worth saving. And, you know, if everybody's on board with going in that direction and trying to save some of these trees. So how does that work, Melinda? Do we have to vote on it, or is it's already in the budget to?
Yeah, I would say that you probably ought to vote on this because you're deciding how to spend money in the operating budget.
Okay. And, okay, so how does that, somebody make a motion? Can I do that, or does someone else in the committee have to do that?
You can actually, this is what I learned recently upon reading the guide for boards, you know, for that, you know, board training that we did recently, that the chair can actually make a motion. I didn't know that, but.
Okay. All right. So I'd like to make a motion to spend the $495 that is left in the operating budget to, you know, to treat the at least a few of the ash trees that are out in that area at the Catamount Community Forest. And
Terry,
is there-
before we get further, can I ask you a clarifying question about, I thought you were proposing to talk to Chris about getting a kind of a report or an assessment on how much it would cost
Mhm.
and what trees he would recommend saving before going ahead to doing the actual treatment. So I was a little, is that the
Yeah.
plan?
So, you know, we have the money allocated for the treatment, and there are several trees. I mean, really $495 probably will treat 3-4 trees, because they're fairly good size out there. And so he would just decide which ones to treat. It's not a matter of if or whatever, I guess, is because the money is already there, but just which ones. There's probably, you know, when you stand at that one large tree and you look around, there's probably 10 trees that are right on the trail that I would say that for safety reasons, you know, it's kind of a toss up on whether you would want to spend the money on that one large tree. Just because that would be probably the whole $500 would go to that one tree. Whereas if you spread it out, you could treat maybe 3 or 4, you know, in the hopes, I guess the idea is you hope that it's not going to come really soon. I mean, it was just last year where EAB was found in Richmond. It travels slow, in some respects, like a mile or 2 a year if it's not transferred, like a piece of firewood isn't bought to the Catamount. So in that sense, we probably do have some time, you know, that there's not wood being bought in and out to the area. So if we allocated like $500 a year to treat several trees. So I guess, you know, we would just look at those 10 and say, okay, we're going to treat 2 or 3 this year. And then the following year you would treat 2 or 3 more and do like a 3-year rotation. So does that answer your question?
I guess I guess a question comes to my mind. Do you all feel like you need more information? Like, would it make sense to go ahead and get that estimate, bring it back to the committee to discuss again before you take a vote on it? Just so that, you know, like, you know, I mean, I don't know, it's just to have more information, I guess.
I could have Ethan come to a Zoom and talk if you wanted.
What I'm really saying is, like, does it make sense for you to go ahead and get an estimate from Chris and then bring that back to the committee so that they know, so everybody knows how much it's going to cost and how many trees could be treated for that cost.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that. You know, the timing is a little tricky because it's at the end of May. I know Chris Sugars, so he's, you know, probably busy till April, mid-April. So I would have to get him out there. You know, and I guess he doesn't need to have the trees in leaf, you know. I think it's difficult to, you know, figure out which ones are male and female. That was the one thing that Tony D'Amato really talked about in
Mhm.
the Zoom, was that it's great to be able to, you know, focus on the female trees where they're the ones that are going to drop the seed. So I can do that. I can reach out to Chris. Maybe we can get out there before he starts sugaring. I'm sure he's already started. Yeah, we can, and I can try to have that information for like maybe our April meeting. Yep. And I guess it's just, you know, my thought is it's in the forestry plan, management plan, that we should be treating the ash to keep them, to save them. One of the trees is a legacy tree. It is huge. It's, you know, and I don't know, you know, will that be this year, next year? So yeah, how do folks feel like that? Would they feel more comfortable getting more information, and that I get a quote from Chris and how many trees we would be? I mean, I could figure that out because you can just measure the tree, but I could have him come and look at them and make an assessment on which ones would make more sense to treat.
Yeah, I think I would like more information. I thought the Zoom presentation was really informative, but now we have to apply it to what our forest needs. And I really, you know, didn't know the number of trees that are involved. Like, it's good to know that, well, it's bad to know it's as close as Richmond, but it's good to know that it's not in our yard yet. And you know, what is the effect? You know, if you start applying it, is it, you know, we you know, based on the Zoom, the YouTube presentation, it's you know, something you have to keep doing. So what's the cost benefit of our starting it now? How many trees do we do? Do we look for more money to do more trees? You know, there's a lot of open questions right now in my mind.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. That's fine. I'll get a hold of Chris and try to set up a time, and I'll let you folks know so you can come out with us. One day, you know, we've had him up to our place up in the islands, and he'll come out, look at the trees. You know, we picked the trees that we wanted to treat, but yeah, he was definitely valuable in giving us some more information.
You know, and Terry, I'll jump in from Catamount's perspective too. I think anytime we can have the professional advice and assessment, breaking it down, it really helps to go back to the public with that. Like, here's why we made this decision. This was the assessment provided. This was the recommendation, and we made the decision to use these funds based on that. And I think that's really helpful. You know, from thinking from my staffing perspective too, people are, what's going on out there? Why are they doing this? Like, we're going to get a lot of those questions too. So it's great to have that information to fall back on, and the person who knows more than I do to refer them to if there's questions on it. So
Okay, great. And that sign out there too has one of those QR codes, which brings you to a site which has a lot more information. Okay, yeah. Great. So March. So yeah, so I'll try to get him to come out, you know, in the early April maybe, and then I can have the information for the April meeting. So okay, great. So I guess we don't need to. So we don't need to vote on it because I'm going to come back. Is that right, Melinda?
Yeah, I would just recommend bringing it to a vote after after the members have gotten a chance to look at this additional information. Another thing that you're probably going to want to think about is if you can only treat a portion of those ash trees, we probably should think about removing sooner than later, removing the other ones that are going to fall if they're not treated, just for safety concerns.
Yeah, I mean, that would be involving closing down probably trails and bringing in heavy equipment. I mean, they're way back there.
Yeah.
they're not very easy to get to. So that would be a major, that's
Well,
why I'm recommending that we save them.
No, yeah, I understand. And I think whether or not you need heavy equipment depends, partly it depends on whether the tree is infested. And so if the ones that are not going to be treated get taken sooner rather than later, it'll avoid the big expense of needing cranes and whatnot.
So
I
you're
got an
recommending
estimate.
just dropping them in the
Just
forest?
dropping it. Yeah, dropping
Boy,
it.
that's leaving a lot of, I don't know, I'd ask Ethan about that. That would be leaving a lot of value on the forest floor. I don't know. I can throw that out there too. We can ask Ethan about that. You know, I would think that he, you know, it is in the forestry plan for 2026.
Yeah, that's, I wouldn't wait that long if you're,
Right.
if you're just gonna leave them there. Cause I mean, for all we know, it could be here now. We don't really know. And I mean, it's
Yeah.
hard to know until you see the tree start to die. And then by then it's, yeah.
I did ask him today about, I was chatting with him today about it, about the purple traps that they had put up. And he said, you know, you can put them up. And if they're there, they will, you know, I mean, they'll fly in there and you'll be able to see if it is there. So, but you know, you just hope that, you know, Catamount's many acres, and I'm not as sure exactly where in Richmond they were detected. But there's a lot of buffer there. And if it's only a mile, you know, just a mile, I think a year. You know, we have a little bit of time, but you're right. You don't want to wait till they start thinning out. And so I think it's a good idea to get out there and monitor. You know, that would be a good volunteer project, is to have a group of volunteers go out there and assess the crown, and to see if there is dieback, and to see if there's any of the blonding of the trees, the bark up there. And yeah, so that would be not a bad, that could be a UVM kids project, students project. So okay, so I will go back and I'll get a hold of Chris Dulmer and get a date and meet him out there, and I'll let you folks know. And then we can, whoever wants to come out and check out those trees, they're beautiful. Really nice ash trees. So just my feeling, I'd hate to lose them. They're really pretty, you know, a lot of them are fairly big. So, okay, great. All right. So I'll come back with more information. Let's see. So we're pretty much on time, actually. So now we can move on to the Catamount Outdoor Family updates.
I don't have a whole lot of updates for you guys, other than like winter's in full swing and we're busy, and the snow's been great, but now we're in like this great Chittenden County weather roller coaster between rain and snow and melt and freeze and all of that. So it's keeping us on our toes for sure. Our snow school program that I told you guys all about has been phenomenal so far. We are reaching 22 separate classrooms, like I said, going from Roxbury through Grand Isle. It's been, the feedback from the educators has just been tremendous. Just, you know, 2 years into a pandemic, and students are getting to do these special programs. And this week, every day this week, we've had classrooms at Catamount. So it's pretty awesome to get these kids out there. We're incorporating some invasive species information along with it, with the watershed stuff and snow science and wildlife and everything. So it's been great. We've got, yeah, those programs continue into the beginning of March. I think we've got a couple. So that's super excited to keep that going. Let's see, the fence update. Our buck and rail fence has been working out really, really well. And it's been great on the weekends, you know, and during the week, because we are just seeing an increase of usage during the week too, especially as people's work schedules shift to more flexibility and time off is different. But it's really having the map on the back of the barn and the picnic tables left out for the winter, and the open flag there, and the fence is bringing people through. People are congregating there. They're having picnics at the picnic table. It's been really exciting to just come out there and see that it's a central hub, and people are gathering there, and yeah, it's great. So if you haven't come to check it out, definitely swing by.
To add on one side effect I've noticed, and it's anecdotal, but I bump into people on the trail far less often that don't know where they are. More new folks have seen a map, they have a clue, they have a sense, and I'm a limited sample size, but I think that that benefit should not go unnoticed. So who knew a fence could help people navigate, but evidently it does.
Yeah, so far it's been really, it's just a good response from what we're seeing, and hub staff are more easily able to relay information and talk to people and make sure they know where they're going, because they're coming through this area. So we can jump out and, hey, do you have any questions? You're putting on gear, checking in. So it's worked out really, really well from our perspective. One thing I wanted to throw out there, when we talk about access to trails and making outdoor recreation more accessible to more people, when the town did purchase the land and received all this funding, part of the stipulation was that pedestrian traffic was free, and it's great. People don't have to pay to hike or snowshoe or anything like that any longer. But in the winter, we still have this barrier to usage, and that is snowshoes. And there are people out there that want to get out on the trails, want to recreate, and they cannot afford snowshoes. Or there's people that maybe are only going to come once or twice a year when they've got family visiting. Situations like that. And I don't know if it's something that this committee or the rec department or any sort of like group effort we could purchase some snowshoes to have at the library, for instance, to be checked out for people to come and use. Yes.
I have spoken with Todd about that, about trying to get town-owned snowshoes available for people. He's working on it, and I also am trying to get some inroads at the library. We need to also maybe talk to Eric. It'd be great if Jeff, we could, talk to Jeff too. I think snowshoe. It'd be great to have snowshoes available for people to use. There does seem, and it seems funny to me that the storage could be the big challenge.
Well, and Danielle, even if it's not a library thing, but maybe they are just at Catamount for Williston residents to check out and explore their forest, or maybe we don't want a stipulation of residency. But I'm just throwing that idea out there. I think it would be really meaningful for the community to have that as a resource. And if there's a way we can all get together to figure out a way, if Catamount needs to store them and do that, that's great. But I think it would be of value to the community.
I think Todd was going to reach out to LL Bean and REI to see about ways to get some donations too.
Oh, I bet we could.
Yeah. This is a great idea. This should definitely happen.
Yeah.
I
Well,
remember-
keep me in the loop, Danielle, with your communications regarding that, and whatever we can do to help facilitate that as well. The company that we got our snowshoes from for our snow school program is Dion Snowshoes, which is down in southern Vermont. And I don't know, I can reach out to them as well. It's great to keep a Vermont company in the loop. And maybe
I feel like we could just post something on Front Porch Forum, and people have old snowshoes that they could just donate to. We just need, it could be really simple to spearhead a way to get 10 snowshoes for people to use.
They're pretty high demand right now. I think you can sell them for a good price.
Some people that would donate them.
But yeah, anyways, I'm glad you guys feel, or at least Danielle, you're feeling support for that. And if there's a way we can make it happen, whether it may not be for this winter, but I think the goal definitely for next winter should be to have some community snowshoes available, youth and adult sizes.
I know years ago, there was a student, I think 8th grade student, who rode away to Vermont Tubs. That's when they were in Vermont and still around, and and she got a bunch of snowshoes that they donated, brand new. So, and then they were just at the school, but yeah, if Catamount would keep them there to hand out, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I can reach out to Dion. I mean, they're, I think, the only Vermont snowshoe manufacturer now. Tubbs is long gone. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's great.
You can
And
store
then-
them in the sheep barn.
Yeah, that's right.
There we go.
There, that's a good use.
Yeah, and the only other thing I have on my radar as an update is National Trails Day is the first Saturday of every June, which is June 4th of this year. And I've talked with one of our committees through our board about putting on an event for National Trails Day and really having it serve as a community event, a way to bring people to the forest, multi-users, multi-interests, people that maybe haven't come to Catamount in the past, that they don't know what there is to do there, and incorporating everything from guided hikes to maybe a kids program. I would love if the Catamount Community Forest would set up a booth so people knew about what you all do and the role you play in the forest management decisions. Be great to have Ethan involved. The EAB information, like stuff like this, really showcasing what's happening at the forest. Maybe Williston Rec wants to be involved. Terry, you've got more connections with Audubon, looking at all of these different organizations that have something to do. Read your connections with the duck nesting boxes, Terry with the bluebird, and just a way to educate people on so many things that are happening. Maybe Laura Meyer would jump in with something with the Vermont naturalists. So I just want to put that on your radar because June's going to come up really quick. And if you guys are supportive of having something like that and have any other ideas of who to invite to be there and take part of it, as a public, we want to do something too with our trails manager, talking about trail maintenance, what's involved with maintaining a trail network, what do you have to do? Having some demonstrations maybe. So
Would the Catamount Outdoor Family Center provide like a tent so people could, even if it was raining, that everybody could set up a table underneath?
That's a good question. I haven't thought about that. I know when I've looked at tents in the past, they are very, very pricey. I think in most cases, the organization, someone would have to bring their tent to set up, and those like 8x8 tents or whatever people have would
I think
probably
the police department has one.
Oh, police department.
They have a
Yeah.
small one, like a pop-up tent,
Yeah.
like a 8x8, I think. Maybe it's
Oh,
bigger.
I was
Yeah.
thinking for like all these multiple groups that Kim
Mm.
just rattled off. Yeah, it would be nice to have one. Like when they did the whole presentation, when the Catamount Community Forest was, remember the big tent they had and the big event?
Yeah,
That
that
was
was
the Land
pricey.
Trust. Yeah.
Yeah, they are really, really expensive. Maybe we could find a sponsor to cover some.
There you go. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want this to be an event that costs money for people to come and attend. I want it to be a welcoming event where people can come and learn about the forest, learn about what they can do at Catamount, as just a nice welcome. It's your community forest, and this is all there is here. Don't be afraid. You don't have to race. You don't have to ride a mountain bike. You don't have to ski,
Mhm.
but there's all of these options because I just think not everyone's involved. And if we can provide some sort of avenue and make it an annual event, and maybe eventually there is funding for a tent, but I would say in its inaugural year, I don't know that it would be feasible given the cost of those things.
Okay, great. So any more updates?
I think that's about it. Like I said, we're just gung ho into winter, and we're already planning for summer. So summer camp registration has a staggered opening structure this year, and that's been going great. And yeah, it's we're going full force. I'm already looking at June, July, August stuff. So
Great.
we are seeing an increase in event requests from outside organizations, quite a variety of them, everything from, hey, we want to host our company party outdoors and go sledding this year because nobody wants to be inside, to, the Vermont Community Garden Network's going to be there on Sunday doing their fundraiser. There's just a lot of events. So we're working really hard. Amanda, our new events coordinator, and Melinda and I are meeting to go over just some event specific stuff. But there's definitely an increase of organizations wanting to use Catamount and link it into their wellness programs through employers and stuff. So it's great to see that level of interest to get people outside and make it more accessible.
Excellent. All right. Sounds like things are going great guns over there. It's excellent. All right. So so it is 6:30. Next was the duck box update. Reed, do you want to do that, or do you want to wait till next time, or how do you?
No, this is going to be very quick. So Terry sent me a contact from Green Mountain Audubon, and she said there would be potential for some funding for our little duck box project. So I wrote a letter, which I've sent to Melinda, so that's the draft of it, and I think it's sufficient. And I can send it out and see, if we can get some funding. Actually, I'm going out buying lumber next week sometime, so we can get that another box built and put up on the first pond on the north side. So we have a hole already augured into the ground and marked, and so we can set that up so we can get in set up in time for spring nesting. So we're moving along. The biggest thing is the metal poles we use. The price has gone up through the roof, and there's a backlog on even trying to get them. Now, my brother-in-law got one free, so a used one. So that's what we'll be using on the next one. So the next box.
Good. Oh, wonderful. So, and Green Mountain Audubon Society. So there are actually two different groups. So you can try both. So Audubon Vermont and Green Mountain Audubon Society are two separate places to get funding. So.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Great. Oh, thank you. Can't wait for those little ducklings to
I hope we get
pop
some.
out of the box. Yeah, that's great.
So
All right.
that's really it.
Excellent. Any questions for Reed?
Nope.
Very good. All right, so I guess we can set up the next date, our next meeting. When is that? That's going to be, what was it? March 10th. March 10th, I guess would be the next Thursday.
Yep.
Okay, I don't think there's any holidays or anything. I will not be here, so Pat, would
Yeah.
you step up and be able to run the
Sure.
meeting
Yeah.
next time?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll hopefully be in Florida. Nice warm, go down there and bird. Hopefully see some good things. So, okay, so next meeting is March 10th, Thursday. So I guess we're all set. Any more discussion on any other topics? No,
I'm
we're
good.
Hearing none, I guess I'll adjourn the meeting at 6:33 p.m.
All right.
Hopefully
right.
everybody can get out to Catamount and go do some skiing or snowshoeing.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye, everyone.